Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. You will have to excuse my somewhat croaky voice. It is better, but not great. We have had quite a lull in activity, and so we are trying to get some of our work moving forward again. This is the NTP working group. I have posted a link to the notes in the agenda in the chat room for the meeting. If you could please contribute to the notes, that would help greatly. As a reminder, this is a official IETF meeting, and all of the IETF policies and procedures are in place. Here is a list of them. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact Dieter or myself, or always feel free to contact Eric Klein, our area director, as well. Draft minutes will be taken in the online notes tool. The link is on the slides as well, but it's not very helpful to you. Please use the Q tool. Be clear, concise, and respectful, and act according to the IETF Code of Conduct. This is our draft agenda for the day. Is there any agenda bashing or any changes or additions you'd like to make? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Hearing no changes or additions. The first item of interest is the review of the documents that we are currently passed through the working group and are on to the next stages. The upstate registries document and the interleave mode document are both in the RFC editor queue, making their progress through that process. The one thing on the registries is we do need to identify some experts for the IANA registries. If anybody is interested in that role, please drop me an email. Enterprise profile document is also in the RFC editor queue that shows up under the TikTok working group. As a reminder, as soon as that profile is published, we plan to close the TikTok working group. It's only open long enough to get this document through. And then finally, the NTP over PTP document. We did get agreement on all of that last year. And I will need to apologize to Miroslav. It slipped off my radar because I let the document expire before we did the Shepherd write-up for it. So we need to get that document moving again and get it handed off to the IESG. We have got agreement with the 1588 community on that document, so we're good to go. The next document, are there any questions about those 4 documents? The next item is the NTP V5 requirements document. There has been some discussion about whether we need to publish that or not. What we need to do to wrap it up. Just as a side note, I believe now we have all of the NTP documents successfully added to the NTP GitHub repo. So with that, we are getting closer to following proper IETF process. And I would like to thank and acknowledge all the authors that did that work. So with that, on the NTP v5 requirements, we had done a working group last call on it, and there was a lot of discussion. There was some concern that comments were not being properly addressed, and some lack of finality on that. So we're going to do one more quick review through that and see if there's any way to wrap it up and pass it on to the IESG. Is there any further comments on that, or did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sorry. No, I have nothing to add. I mean, I think a last review is still needed, but then we can move it forward.
Okay, James is not on the call, so I don't have to follow up with him to find out what his status on that is. I sound like a frog. Next up is the V5 protocol specification. I know Miroslav was waiting for some clarity out of the requirements document. Miroslav, do you want to talk about the status of the V5 document?
Yes, there is a new version uploaded. There were some minor changes and some improvements in the introduction. There are a few things I think that we need to resolve. It seems we don't have a consensus on the reference IDs. There are some people suggesting that we should stick to the NTP v4 mechanism and maybe avoid this complexity of the Bloom filter. And I think David said that he doesn't like the reference IDs, including the reference clocks and NTP v4 servers, and nobody else commented on that. So I think we need to resolve that. Yeah, and generally we are missing more feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. David, did you want to comment at all, or are you?
Yeah, we're currently in the process of getting our implementation ready to enable the draft specification by default, which would hopefully give us at least some more insight in how the current draft would work in practice. We're getting close to releasing that, hopefully in the next month or two.
Okay.
And I'll update it to the new draft version that Miroslav published before we do that, of course.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I guess the action for the rest of the working group is to review that document and please provide feedback. It is available on the GitHub repo for the NTP working group. Next is rough time. I know that there's been an update, and I think a call for potentially doing a working group last call. Marcus, do you want to speak to that document?
Yeah. So I can start with, and I unfortunately forget who, but someone pointed out that we've been aiming for this draft to be, I think, informational. We were warned that we might get pushback on that from the IESP. So the suggestion was experimental or something else. And me and Watson has discussed that a bit. And I agree with Watson that experimental might be a better fit for rough time than what it currently is. And the second thing, is working group last call is something Watson has also brought up privately with me and the chairs, I think. And we feel that the protocol is very ready at this point. I see two minor worries. I don't think they're blockers for working group last call, but I'd like to hear your that. And the first one is there's been low adoption of the latest draft, so most implementation authors haven't actually updated their implementations to the latest draft, which means there hasn't been any interoperability testing. And my second worry, which is really minor, is I've yet had no comments on our proposed formats for malfeasance reports and so forth.
Okay. Sorry, Dieter, do you mind muting when you're not speaking? Yeah, thank you. All right, so are there any questions or comments on the rough time document? Okay, Marcus, it wasn't, so you're saying you think it is ready to go to working group last call as an experimental draft?
Yeah, I think me and Watson are in agreement on that.
Okay. I see no issue with that. So we'll go ahead and issue a working group last call on that as experimental. Let me see, does the latest draft actually say experimental?
No, but I can fix that. I think we have something that works there. But I could have that submitted today even, I think.
Yeah, if you could do that before we issue it, that would be one less source of confusion.
I'll do my best.
All right, no worries. Just ping me when you've done it in case I miss it. All right. Thank you to the authors of Rough Time for moving that forward. The next document we have is NTS for PTP. I did get an email from Martin that he has unfortunately unable to attend. He indicates that the document has been updated. It still does not contain all of the planned content, but they have made a number of changes. And he said some non-essential parts have been removed to simplify the protocol. New chapters have been added addressing replay and spoofing protection. Overall, the document has been optimized, reducing the total number of pages, and it's been uploaded to the GitHub repo, which is fantastic. So with that, it really needs some review and feedback from the rest of the working group. I know that it's also going to be discussed in an upcoming 1588 security working group. And it's important that those two activities stay aligned. Are there any questions or comments on that document? You all are very quiet today. The last document I wanted to bring up to get some indication, it's not an official working group document by any stretch, but I think it is an important piece of the NTS and deployment puzzle. Is NTS for NTP pools. I didn't know, David, what your current plans were for this document, or if I should take it off the list of ones I'm tracking, or if there's any progress.
So our current plans for the document is basically to let it lay dormant whilst we start setting up an experimental pool. That process, we are currently in discussions with some funders, but I can't say any more on that at the moment. So yeah, that's basically the status. I'm not sure if there's any questions on that, then I'd be happy to answer that. But at this point, we are looking to basically get a working prototype out there and see what feedback on that is and what uptake on that is.
Okay. I was just looking quickly at data tracker. I wanted to be sure it stayed on my radar as one of our documents, even if it's not. I guess I did make it a candidate for working group adoption in that way. The naming of the draft is such that it doesn't automatically show up in the NTP working group. And so that's the reason why I marked it as a candidate for adoption. And it is still active, so we do have some time. I think they're looking, I've heard some mumblings about the tooling being changed so that documents don't expire. Which would be kind of nice, especially for a document like this, where it might be sitting there for a little while, but we don't want to forget about it. All right. Any other question? Any questions on the NTS for NTP pools? Go ahead, David.
Yeah, just wanted to say that if I need to, at any point, re-upload a new version to keep it active, just give me a poke.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, with that, we come to future meetings and hackathons. Dietrich and I debated this because we weren't sure how many people would actually be in Bangkok. But we've decided to go ahead and schedule a meeting. And I requested a time that would work primarily for Europeans, given the difficulty. Don't remember exactly the time we got. I'll have to look it up again. The draft agenda for the upcoming IETF is out, and so there is a meeting slot assigned to us in the afternoon Bangkok time, which I think is going to work out to be sometime in the morning for Europeans. So look to have that meeting. Unfortunately, I think the only way we continue to make progress is to have meetings. So we are going to, I think we said this before, we're going to try and have more regular interim meetings to sort of keep the work moving forward. And if you have any questions or concerns about that, or if you have specific times you want us to avoid, please get in touch. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, it sounds like this is going to be a time that might work better for Harlan. Are there any initiatives ongoing to maybe try to get him to join, at least remotely?
We can try and move the meeting later in the day. This is not a time, well, this is 8 a.m. his time. And we have moved the meeting before and he didn't come, so I moved it back to a time that was convenient for the people participating. But I'm happy to move it around. It is going to mean some times later in the day, which is fine.
I mean, if it's going to be in the earlier morning for Europe, given the time that he emailed today, it might overlap with when he's awake.
Oh, yeah, that meeting might actually work for him. I've read his latest email. I've heard these concerns from him before, so I'm not exactly. I'm going to ask Eric to address it because I think I'm the wrong person to address them at this stage. Thank you, Dieter. Dieter put the point in the thing in his. The next meeting will actually be Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning UTC. It's Tuesday of IETF week, which the date is middle of March. It would be. Well, you all can figure that out on your own. You're all March 18th. At 8:30 in the morning for European. So yes, we will be reaching out to Harlan to address his concerns. Eric and I separately met with him like a year and a half ago, and offered to meet with him one-on-one monthly, and he didn't follow us up on it. So I'm not sure. I think Eric's going to have to handle it. So I wish it were not the case, but that's the way it is. Any other questions? All right. Our next meeting will be in Bangkok. Well, it won't be in Bangkok. Our next meeting will be Bangkok time during the regular week of the IETF, which does mean that you all are going to need to register as remote attendees if you are not coming in person. And I would like to remind you to do that in advance. Partially, I don't know if the early registration fee applies for virtual attendance or not, but if you feel it's not reasonable financially to pay for virtual attendance, you can request a remote waiver, and the process for that is available on the registration page. I understand it's a 1-hour meeting, but there is a lot of cost associated with providing remote participation for those week-long meetings. So I encourage everybody to register early so that you can plan to be at the virtual meeting. You get my point. Finally, the meeting after that, the physical meeting after that, is Madrid in July. We are really hoping to have some active hackathon activity at that meeting. Be a good time slot for most of our active developers, possibly to be able to participate remotely if they can't attend in person. We are looking for NTP v5 and NTS. Actually, any work on any of our documents or standards be really helpful. I think that's the best option we have on the calendar at the moment. The meeting after that is going to be in Montreal in November. We could look to have a hackathon aligned with another time-related activity. If there's one in particular you all think would be useful, please reach out and tell us. So with that, are there any other questions or comments? All right. Like to draw this meeting to a close. And that's about it. Miroslav, I have a quick question for you. I don't know if you can, if I can, maybe we could have a phone chat right after that, since I've used up the full meeting time. All right, everybody, meeting's over.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank
All
you,
right,
Dave. Bye, Christoph.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.